Hello, this is Reverend Dr. William J. Barber II, co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign. And I'm here with our tri-chairs today for this event, Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, who's another co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign nationally, and Reverend Rob Stevens, who's the National Policy Director for Repairs of the Breach. And this is a serious time. You know, when we started this 5 weeks ago, we were not all clear on every reason why, but we knew we had to. We knew we had to speak to McConnell's meanness, his madness, his and the misery and the mayhem that he is has caused. We've had hundreds of thousands of people to join on every Monday. People have called, shut down phone lines, made it clear. And that was about just the stimulus package because of what McConnell was trying to do in terms of wanting more tax cuts and wanting money for a fighter plane and wanting more money for his corporate greedy friends rather than standing right and doing right by the poorest people. And so Kentucky's Poor People's Campaign said, let's do a weekly call-in, New Jack City twist with an old style sit-in concept. And we've done it, and you all have been fabulous. But now where we are, in addition to it, and not separate from or disconnected to, but now we have this issue of the Supreme Court seat and the passing of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And we want to take a minute and just remember her and honor her. But the best way you can honor her is remember that Ruth Bader Ginsburg would come out of chemotherapy and go right back to the courts. Her husband died, and she went right back to the courts to deal with cases because she understood something that she had in a placard over her desk, and that is, you shall pursue justice. That's what she saw every morning when she went into her office. You shall pursue justice. It's a direct command from God in the book of Deuteronomy. And now here we are. And I want you to hear this very clearly. McConnell will not vote on a stimulus plan to save lives. Think about that now. Will not vote on a stimulus plan to save lives. Will not vote to guarantee people health care and living wages and protection of their water and their mortgages. Will not vote. He said he wasn't going to vote unless he could guarantee that his corporate friends didn't have to face liability, legal liability for not treating people right. He wasn't going to vote till he got billions of more dollars to tax cuts and a multi-billion-dollar airplane. He will not vote on a stimulus to save lives. But before our sister is buried, and even resting in her grave, he announced that he wants a vote on the Supreme Court. See, that ought to piss you off. And I say that in the most spiritual terms. It ought to give us the kind of righteous indignation. It was bad enough. We ought to be righteously moved. We were already bothered. And don't tell me not to be angry. We're going to be angry and not sin not. We're not angry in terms of mad, where we're going to hurt somebody, do somebody. But there ought to be an eternal anger, an eternal discontent with greed and with injustice. You're not going to vote on a stimulus plan to help people live, and then before somebody can even bury it, while they're even being talked about, before their family can cry, you announce that you are so committed to greed, you want to feel their seat. You want to feel their seat. And on feeling, and we know that he has a history of filling the seat with federal judges and justices that are predisposed to vote against poor people, and vote against civil rights, and vote against voting rights, and vote against women's rights. Don't limit Ruth Bader Ginsburg's history to just women's rights, as powerful as that is. She stood against corporate greed. McConnell stands for corporate greed. She stood against Citizens United. McConnell stands for Citizens United. She stood for health care. They stand against health care. She stood for voting rights. They stand against voting rights. And now they want to feel somebody in that seat that's predisposed to vote against all of the things that poor people and low-wealth people need in this society to be able to fight for the survival and the soul of this democracy. My friends, we have a pandemic of coronavirus, but that ain't what McConnell is infected with. That's not what he and his cronies and Trump are infected with, even though Trump this morning said, I'm going to appoint a woman. But you know, like I know, that black people learn, you can appoint a black man But that doesn't mean he's going to stand up for voting rights and against racism. You got to check the record, not just the skin color. And you got to check the record, not just the gender. But McConnell is infected with the pandemic and the ongoing virus of greed, a lust for power, meanness. He's a mean old man, mean. Racism, and he's infected with lies. How do we know? Because time and time again, he and Trump and others have been tested. They've been tested by the decisions they have to make, and every time they get tested, they come up positive. Positive that they are infected by greed, infected by the pandemic of the lust for power and racism and lies and pure meanness, political meanness and manipulation. And my brothers and sisters all over the country, we are the only vaccine that saved this nation. Our truth, our voices, our refusal to be silent, our votes, our commitment, our protest is the only vaccine that can save this country. And don't forget, we have power. We have power to lay out this vaccine. It's already been purchased. It's already been developed. It was purchased by the blood of the martyrs. It's already been written into law in the 15th Amendment, the right to vote. Remember, 63 million poor and low-wealth people had the right to vote in 2016. 34 million didn't, but 29 million did. And we know in 15 states, if poor and low-wealth people just vote. They don't have to register. Many are already registered. Between 1 and 19%, we can fundamentally change the election. Don't forget that Trump won by about 80-some thousand votes in 3 states across the top of the country. And in those same states, 2.1 million poor and low-wealth people were eligible to vote. And many of them didn't vote. And some of them didn't vote because nobody talks to them. But now poor and low-wealth people decided, you may not talk to us, but we're going to talk to this nation. We're going to change the narrative. We're going to build power. Let me tell you something as we begin today, this very serious day. And I want all of those at the place when you honking, don't be smiling. Let them know you're frustrated, you're upset. This ain't no laughing time. Ain't no joy. This is serious business. We need to be mourning, but it's not the kind of mourning where you go somewhere in a corner and bend up and you can't move. It's the kind of mourning where the Bible says, blessed are they that mourn, i.e. blessed are they that care so deeply that they fight back. Blessed are those that mourn. Blessed are those that walk humbly with God, not merely sit humbly before God, but walk humbly with God, i.e. if God is on the battlefield for justice, then you walk humbly with God on the battlefield for justice. If God is on the battlefield for love, then you get on that battlefield and walk humbly with God and be amazed at what God can do and how God can take little and make much. That's the season we're in. And so we call on you to be very serious, to register your discontent. Those of you today that are in those caravans, move. Those of you not in the caravans, call all over the country. And we're already going to be thinking about next Monday, even on Yom Kippur, we need to be sounding the shofar during the middle of the day. And we might be in the cause of justice. We're thinking about it, having it where we have gatherings in other states where senators are vulnerable, where they can stop this foolishness. And we may even have a line of clergy all the way down Constitutional Place, Liz, me and you and others lined up. But the one thing we're not going to do is be silent. And the other thing we're not going to do is put our light under a bushel, because that's not what the Lord told us. The Lord has told us to shine our light. We're in the midst of darkness, but remember, my brothers and sisters, it is often against the gross backdrop of darkness that God does some of God's greatest work through his people to become lights. And I tell you today, Liz, McConnell and Trump must pay for even suggesting doing this. You see, even if they don't do it, we now know what's in their heart. A lot of times you don't get to know what's in people's heart because you really don't know what's in their heart till they put it on paper, till they say it. Now we know what's in their heart. Trump has even said he wants to do this so he can have somebody on the court in case the election gets thrown. So just suggest that, to just even let people know. The very suggestion that you want to fill a seat before someone has even been buried, just the suggestion of that, they should have to pay politically. And there ain't but a few ways you make people pay politically. You protest them, and then you use your votes to challenge their power. That's where we are, my brothers and sisters. And we must do more. That's what this National Moral Monday March on McConnell is all about. What it was about and what it's about now, and why we're going to stand, and why the Kentuckians. And don't mess around and get Kentuckians fighting now. That's a whole different ball of wax when you get the hood and the holler together. That's a whole different ball of wax. So before we go any further, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And then right after that, we'll hear from Liz.
This little light of mine.
Great. You just heard This Little Light of Mine. That was right at the National Mall. Yara Allen and the team under the tent laying it out. We were in fight mode, This Little Light of Mine. Now we want to kick it over to Reverend Liz. Reverend Liz, talk to us about this day and why it's so important and why we have to connect all of these things together as we fight to deal with the issue of poverty in this country.
Well, thanks so much, Reverend Barber, and to everyone that's joining us for this Moral Monday March on McConnell. We are so pleased to be here together, making sure that our voices are heard and our lives matter. In this moment, right, as our nation is mourning the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the passing of Breonna Taylor and countless Black lives, the loss of 200,000 of God's children to COVID, not because they were called home, but because the political leadership of this country has failed to respond adequately to the public health crisis. As lives and livelihoods are destroyed by wildfires and hurricanes and climate change, and right after the Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah and the approach of a Day of Atonement, I want to share some words from Isaiah 3. And as I share them, I think we must think about Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Isaiah 3 says, God enters the courtroom, takes his place at the bench to judge his people. God calls for order in the court, hauls the leaders of his people into the dock. You've played havoc with this country. Your houses are stuffed with what you've stolen from the poor. What is this anyway? Stomping on my people, grinding the faces of the poor in the dirt. Now listen to this passage. Isn't this just what Mitch McConnell is doing, what Donald Trump is doing, what senators who pledge to rush justices in, but who stall a just stimulus are doing. They're playing havoc with this country. Mitch McConnell is stuffing houses full with what they've stolen from the poor. In this pandemic, the 643 wealthiest Americans have raked in an extra $845 billion. They've stomped on Breonna Taylor, on George Floyd, on people standing for racial and economic justice in towns across the country. McConnell, Trump, their enablers are grinding the faces of the poor in the dirt. But the God of those who can't breathe, those dying from the lack of medical care and attacks on Medicaid and Medicaid expansion will not stand for it. The people of Kentucky, the people of Washington, D.C., the people across these United States will not and are not standing for it. So we want to thank everybody for joining us on this Moral Monday March against McConnell, for joining these caravans across Kentucky and Washington, D.C., holding McConnell accountable for denying voting rights, for suppressing health care, for packing or threatening to pack the Supreme Court with judges who trample on the poor. We ask everyone here to keep putting pressure on McConnell and to pledge to do more, to mobilize, to organize, to register, to educate people for a movement that votes, because we, the 140 million poor and low-income people in this country, have the power to make it better. And so we must do so. Thanks so much for being here. Continue to fight, and thanks to the inspirational leadership of the folks in Kentucky and across this country who are indeed standing up and taking action together.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you so much, Dr. Liz. And we indeed need to know our power. This is not the time to mourn and cry and back up. It's the time to mourn and stand and fight back and fight forward. Now, you can look across the bottom, I believe, Rob, if I'm right, and you can get where you go to call. We want people that are not in the caravans to be calling all these sites and to call in. And this is a caravan. It's a caravan and a call in for members of the media. In a moment, we're going to be going to the various sites all around Kentucky and in Washington, D.C., by the way. That we're organizing this protest, this national protest. Did you all hear what Liz said about how much the wealthy have made in the midst of this pandemic? It is unconscionable. But what you should know is if you check the record, particularly all of the judges that McConnell has pushed forward, 99% of the time they vote in favor of corporations over people. They vote literally against voting rights. They vote in favor of corporations over people, and they vote against health care. These are the things we must keep in mind. It's not just about an appointment. It is about an attempt to literally hijack the executive branch of government, the legislative branch of government, and the judicial branch of government, and put it in the hands of those that would lean in and lean to a more authoritarian, undemocratic form of government. This is serious business, you all. It's as serious as what Liz said the prophet said. It's as serious as what Frederick Douglass said in 1857 when he faced a similar situation. And he said, this must embolden our agitation. It cannot serve for us to sit down and whine. We must look at the world that can be, not what this craziness is saying, but we can have a just system. We can have a system where corporations are not given more power over people. We can have a system of healthcare and full voting rights. And we can do it if we fight, and if we fight for the kind of judicial system, the kind of presidency, and the kind of legislative body that will push for that. And it begins with our protests in the streets and our votes in the streets. We now want to go to the co-chairs, Pam and Tana, who are in Kentucky, and we want them to shout out. They can say their names again if they want everybody to know exactly what, but we want them to speak to us now. Pam, Tana, Pam McMichael, Tana Fogel, come on.
Hey, Reverend Barber, we're here in Tana's busy honking her horn and driving away, but I've got Dr. Arnold Farr here. You say hey?
Okay.
Dr. Barber, how are you?
Are we in Lexington?
We're in Lexington. Things are kicking off here. We've got our caravan going around Mitch McConnell's office. In all of his offices across the state, we've got a caravan going on. Kentuckians are fed up with 35 years of inactivity from our senator, 35 years of him standing in the way. So we're speaking out today.
Right. Do you want other people in the nation to join you?
Pardon?
Do you want other people across the nation to join you and to call his office?
We would absolutely love that. Absolutely love it.
All right.
The more the merrier.
Well, that's coming straight out of Lexington, Kentucky. All right, Lexington. Y'all stay on it. Stay on it.
Yes,
and stay with it. Now, I think, Rob, we might have to make an adjustment. I didn't see.
I think we got Tana now.
Tana, where are you?
Tana, are you with us? And Pam is on, and they can just maybe bring some greetings from Pam and Tana.
Okay.
And then we can go back to Lexington. We got one more person there.
Okay, Tana. There she is. I see her, but I don't hear her.
Okay, Pam, why don't you start?
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Reverend Barber, Reverend Liz. We're here in Louisville, Kentucky. We've got our caravan's going to head out in 10 minutes, right on the hour. We're going to be led by people on bicycles. We've got a long string of cars. We've got the press out, and we are just thrilled to be joined by people across the country and all across the state in DC and across the state to bring this pressure on such a hypocrite who uses and misuses and abuses his power to push legislation that hurts Kentuckians and to stop legislation that helps us. So we're glad to be part of this car caravan. It gives us hope because we know forward together, not one step back, that together we can accomplish great things. So we appreciate people calling into his office. We're going to keep the pressure on. And this is about what kind of world we want to live in, and he does not represent it.
That's exactly right, Pam. Thank you for keeping the pressure on. Thank you for what you do. And again, all over the country, you can't be in the caravan, you can be on the call. If you can't be in the caravan, you can be on the call. Remember, we do it New Jack City way. This is an old-timey sit-in, old-timey caravan, but we're using this new technology to do it. Tana, do I see your face? Do I hear your voice? All right. She'll come.
Yeah, we might have to come back, Tana. You might need to call in or get in a place with a better connection. But we do have Reverend L. Clark Williams, who's in Lexington.
Reverend Williams, I know you're a preacher, man, and you know preachers, that this is the time for prophets and preachers to stand up. This is the time we speak out and be clear. Talk to us, Doc, all across the nation from Kentucky.
We are here in Lexington. We're doing work across the entire state. Connecting with folks from the pulpit, yes, but we're also beginning to engage clergy around taking to the street, giving folks the information that's necessary for us to vote. What Mitch McConnell and those like him are doing is they are spreading fear, seeking to spread division. And they do not. We're a state in Kentucky, this Commonwealth, our motto is united we stand, divided we fall. And certainly we know where that even comes from, with Christ even saying a house divided against itself cannot stand. But Mitch McConnell and those like him, that's what they deal in, that's what they market, that's what they sell, because they do not have anything worthwhile to offer to us as the people of the Commonwealth. We are efforting with some of our messages even now. There are 38 counties or 78 counties in Appalachia. Appalachia is a 13-state region. There are 78 counties in Appalachia that are currently considered in economic distress. And Mitch McConnell, for all of his supposed leadership in Kentucky and with all his power, 38 of the 78 counties in Appalachia that are in economic distress are right here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
And Reverend William, that's actually according to the government number. The truth of the matter is they're more than that because
I agree with that as well.
So let's not even use his number.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's so
it's even. I agree. That's even worse than the official stated number.
Yeah,
absolutely.
In the poor people's can we use the numbers that have to do with the supplemental and those who make less than a living wage, and that means actually almost half of all Kentuckians are poor and low wealth. And you're right, he doesn't focus on that. Now they are unified, but they just unified for wrong. You know, a mob can be unified.
Certainly. Yeah, there's some unification there, but they want to divide folks around all these various lines so we can't unite for good.
That's right. Well, Doc, we thank you so much for coming on, and we know that you're right. I heard you say you're getting the preachers together, not in the pulpit, but in the pulpit and also in the street. So it sounds like
I think they got some horn blockers because my horn has stopped on my car.
Yeah, hold on, Tana. We'll get you. Hold on. So so it sounds like that y'all getting ready to follow Jesus if you're getting ready to go in the street. Because when I read the Bible, that's where he spent most of his time. So, Reverend, thank you so much for Lexington. Keep up the fight. Keep up the fight. All folk all over the country. You need to join Reverend Williams and everybody else, the PPC. Call McConnell's office today. We're thinking about next Monday doing something a little broader with the other senators and also being in D.C. But today, the focus is singularly on Mitch McConnell. But why? Because he's the leader. Why? Because the rules of the Senate give the leader so much power that the leader can determine what bill comes to the floor, what bill never comes to the floor. He can determine whether a nominee comes to the floor, whether not. And most of the time, they only bring it to the floor when he already knows he has the vote, so that he knows that it doesn't matter what the debate is, the deal is already done. We've got to stop it before it ever happens. He'll vote. He wants to vote on a replacement, won't vote on a stimulus. That's wrong in every way. Thank you, Reverend Williams. Thank you so much from Lexington. Let me go over to my dear sister from Tana before she just rocks the house right by herself. She said they got some horn blockers, but she got through somehow. Come on, Tana, talk to us. We got
Hey, Reverend Barber. It's Reverend Barber. Can you hear me? It's about 100 cars, 100 plus cars out here. We are going around in a circle. We thought the police was going to stop us because they came to block one side of the driveway, but we moved right on past them. So she finally moved over and parked a parking space, and we are going around in the circle blowing and screaming. But I don't know what happened to my 2020 Kia. My horn does not work.
All right.
It's powerful out here.
Well, that's all right, Tana. You got a horn the Lord gave you. Call your mouth and your voice, and you know how to use it well. And let me tell you something. Long as y'all on the street and there ain't no sign that say it's one way, as long as you driving the right way, keep right on driving. There's no law against driving. There's no law against blowing. And there sure now is a law against protest. If anything, there is a law that says we have the right to protest, freedom of speech, and to assemble. Reverend Liz, what you think about these folks all over the state?
Look at these beautiful people everywhere across the state in huge numbers saying, McConnell, you're not right. McConnell, you're not right.
That's right.
The policies you're pushing.
Here you go. Check this out. Can y'all see it?
We got it. We got it. We see it.
We have the right to assemble. We have the right to assemble.
This is private property.
Well, and people do business in the bank, so we have the right to drive up through here.
Going in the park?
We have the right. We can pass through here.
Wait,
are you stopping every car that comes up here and ask them if they're parking?
If you're going in the park,
Okay, we're just gonna keep on driving in circles. And so, Lexington Police, what's your name?
Yeah, tell her you got national media. Tell her you got national media on it, and all you doing drive.
Hold on, just 1 second. So, what's your name?
So do we want to go up to Fort Wright, the street?
They got it. Honda's got it. Let's go up to Fort Wright and come back. Fort Wright. Where are you at? Where are you, Fort Wright? We want to hear from you.
We have Sister Serena from Fort Wright, who's showing us right now the big sign.
Is that my nun fellow, my Catholic nun friend?
How many cars do you think we got? About 30 cars? Or
He's saying
Serena, talk to us.
Hello from the Kentucky Poor People's Campaign. We're representing Northern Kentucky, and we're so grateful to be here. We have folks that showed up for Kentucky. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
I hear you. Keep talking.
We have folks who showed up for Kentuckians, and we're showing up for and asking for fair laws. We're asking for our Senator Mitch McConnell to also show up for Kentuckians. We need him to pass laws and legislation that are good for Kentucky. We all have a right to live.
Okay. So are you asking specifically for him to pass a just stimulus bill with the Poor People's Campaign? And are you asking him not to stop this foolishness of trying to fill Justice Ginsburg's seat before the election?
Yes, we are. Yes, sir.
All right.
And we're
All right.
asking him to do things in love and not hate.
That's right. Well, let me ask you one thing. Are you demanding it? Because, you know, you got a right, both biblically, I know we Southerners, but you got a right to demand justice and not just request it, but demand it. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We're demanding.
That's right. The Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bible says do justice. It doesn't say just ask for it. It says do justice and love mercy. And it demands that leadership does right. And we're going to do that. We don't hate anybody, but we do hate injustice. We hate wrong. And in love, love requires truth. And truth requires love. And truth and love require justice. And without all three, it's not enough. So thank you so much from Fort Wright. Do you have another speaker from Fort Wright? Is that the only one? Thank you. Where are we going now, Rob? You want to go over to Ashley? Ashley Judd, my dear sister.
We have a special guest. So,
wow.
Introduce her.
Well, Miss Ashley Judd, who's got all those roots in Kentucky and people from Kentucky, and you all know the Judd family and their deep history and country music, but also Ashley's roots in activism and being an actor. We want to hear from her. Are we hearing by face and by voice or just by voice? There she is. Did I mean?
You see her.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Bishop.
How you doing today? We are so glad that you can see I'm kind of hyped today. I'm going back to my old radio days, you know, when I used to do it like that. But, you know, but we're so glad to have you and to join all of you. This is serious time. And
it is a very serious time. Yes, I'm very choked up. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you also to Reverend Liz. And I'm just so happy to be a part of the Poor People's Campaign and your moral mass. It's good to be with you and to be with all of my brothers and sisters from the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Well, thank you. You know, Ashley, you and I talk often about this and text back and forth. And I was going to read something today that people need to hear in moments like this, because there is a danger when we lose a hero like a Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and that is to mourn the wrong way. And sometimes what people do when they lose a hero is they say all is lost. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, and others taught us as far back as 1857 that we cannot say all is lost. In fact, we have to do even more when we lose our heroes and our heroes. You know, the Lord told us what people mean for evil, God can work it to good. And it is often against the backdrop of grotesque darkness, grotesque, not just darkness, grotesque darkness, that God will show a light. The evil always overreaches. And what I believe we're seeing now in the country is a form of overreaching. But let me just read this and then let you talk some, or maybe you want to respond to it. Frederick Douglass said this when he said, this is when Justice Taney in 1857 led the court to vote unanimously. He had just been appointed to the Supreme Court to vote unanimously that the Dred Scott decision was that a black man had no rights that a white man had to pay attention to, and that black people were not basically persons and had no rights under the Constitution. They were slaves. And Frederick says, you know, they are organized. He says they're organized from the state government to the churches, to the federal government, to the Supreme Court. He says they are organized. He said, but that's just one view. And thank God it's only one view. He said, there's another view. Then he says, do you know about David when he faced Goliath? He looked insignificant. But if you look large and longer, you will find out that David actually ended up being larger than Goliath when he stood over him. He said that, then he says, this is the way it has always been, and we can never forget it. Oppression, organized as ours is, will appear invincible up to the very hour of its fall. So let us look at the other side and see if there are not some things to cheer our heart and nerve us up anew for the good work of emancipation. And then he said, the truth is, when you look at the whole history of the fight for justice and freedom and abolition, there's much proof that says every action against it has only served to embolden and intensify our agitation. And just maybe this may be the final chain in the preparatory act for the downfall of the entire thing. I think inside of all of this, as a person of faith, McConnell and Trump are going too far. Yes. And the fact that they can't even mourn a death, the fact they're so ugly, so mean, that they're actually bringing people out that's now talking about voting and standing up, and people talking about how they might use power in the future. I'm talking about progressives in a way they never thought about it. What do you think about that in the midst of this moment, about this is the time for us to realize that they may be flexing and they may look like they have all the power, but our job is to keep fighting, as our foreparents did, for this democracy.
Well, thank you so much for reading that. And of course, Justice Bader Ginsburg called that decision, the Dred Scott decision, one of the worst decisions in the history of the Supreme Court. And I think that it was the worst decision, and she qualified it as one of the worst until some of the more recent decisions came into play on which she presided and for which she provided her famous and sharp dissents, such as, corporations or people and things that for which we have her famous dissents. And thank you also for ministering to me, because I needed that, and I count on you for that. I have you, and I have Father Richard Rohr, and I have Cynthia Bourgeot, the wonderful mystic who lives in a hermitage in the woods in Maine, whose Mary Magdalene contemplation course I'm taking at the moment, because, it has to be well in my soul in order to do this fight. And I'm really grieving Justice Ginsburg right now, but as the reading said, and one of my favorite book titles is David Sometimes Wins. Yep. And this is a righteous fight. This is a very righteous fight. And it is grotesque overreach that McConnell and his Trump enablers, because that's what they are enablers, and it is a cult of personality. And the determination and the grit and the resolve that is being tapped into like a taproot of a mighty tree is going to help lift us, as the motto that you have here at the Poor People's Campaign, voting is our power unleashed, is going to help make a powerful turnout in early voting and absentee voting and on election day, the 3rd of November. And folks will vote their best interests. They will be more informed. They will vote for the candidates who understand that violence is poverty in this, that poverty is violence in this country. And I have personal and historic acquaintance with poverty. My grandmommy was born on Black Log Holler in Eastern Kentucky in Martin County, on a front porch where President Johnson declared the war on county. That was the war on poverty that was in Martin County, and her parents couldn't afford to feed her when she was a teenager, and she was sent over to Berea, Kentucky to live with the family who helped look after her for a period of time during her adolescent years. And I'm well familiar with the SNAP program, because there were occasions when I was growing up when my mother needed to call on food stamps to make sure that my sister and I had enough nutrition. And, you talk about the M's when it comes to McConnell, the misery and the meanness and the mayhem that he unleashes. 4 out of 5 people who receive that supplemental nutrition assistance are children and the elderly and the disabled and folks who are ill. And to suggest that we need to cut SNAP by 30% is savagery, and it's barbaric. And in the country with the most abundance in the history of our world, it's just cognitive dissonance. And that's why I'm proud to be with you and the Poor People's Campaign. And, Kentucky does not fare well in the national statistics for poverty. We rank 4th. And we also have what is ranked in a Gallup poll, the unhappiest county in the country. And it happens to be the highest coal producing county in the country. And I'm very happy that you include ecological devastation in the pillars of your demands. And so we have a big fight on our hands, but it's a righteous fight. And I'm really glad to be with you on it. And, I'm so proud for the people who are caravanning and who are choking up those phone lines today. And, we absolutely will put principles over personalities and hold Mitch McConnell accountable.
Well, I love something you said. It's a righteous fight, because my grandmother used to say, in a righteous fight, you can cry and shout at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And grieving is holy. Grieving is holy.
Very holy. It's very holy. Very holy.
because it shows us where our values are, and it shows us where caring comes from. And there's a wonderful Buddhist meditation teacher and Dharma, the wisdom talks that she gives, Tara Brock, because I believe in interfaith dialogue and interfaith spirituality.
That's right.
She talks a lot about, this process of rain, which I need, because, so first of all, I recognize that I'm agitated. And then I allow myself to be agitated because what I resist in an emotional state persists. And then I interrogate it. And what I always get down to is that my values are being confronted and they're being challenged. And it comes down to, the grief and the sadness and the suffering. And that goes, it's my empathy. It's my empathy. And it's my care and concern for my suffering brothers and sisters, for the poverty that I see and the suffering and the folks living in their cars and the 14% of folks at the end of August who were just polled in the Truth Out article who were not able to consistently feed their children last week, and the 80% of folks whose wages have stagnated since the 1970s, and the 32 million people without health care, and the fact that, everyone in my family has a pre-existing condition, and the Affordable Care Act is up for a vote in front of the Supreme Court when they next go back into session. And the fact that we have pay inequality in this country, and to disaggregate that data by color, and it's Black women, it's Latinx women, it's Hispanic women, it's our Native American sisters, And
it doesn't have, and the part of the mourning is that we mourn that it doesn't have to be, it's rooted in lies and mythology. When we look at what McConnell is doing, I was telling someone the other day as we wrap up to go to the next city.
Yes, of course.
That oftentimes does not come out. They will use Roe v. Wade as the basis for why they're appointing these judges. Interestingly enough, even when they have a majority, they don't touch Roe v. Wade, but they always bring it up because first of all, they shouldn't be dealing with that. The woman's right to her body choice and all, but what they cover up by doing that too, and why we have to unpack, is that the cover up is they're also appointing judges that 99% of the time vote for corporation. They're trying to appoint judges that roll back voting rights. They're trying to appoint judges that would undermine health care. And so, as I said at the beginning of this, the sin of refusing to vote for stimulus, right, to save lives, that the sin you would commit is then as soon as someone is dead, just for your gross love of power and greed, you will already talk about them being replaced. It requires us to cry out. And I was having a conversation, I'll leave you with this, with one of the leading rabbis in the country about this period of Jewish holy time and repentance. And I asked him about the sound of the shofar. And he said, well, Reverend Barber, in the ancient rabbinical readings, you know why we chose the ram horn and the sound? And I said, well, I know it's a sound. It was often sound to signal war. It was often sound to signal mourning. It was often sound. And when it says shout like a trumpet blast in Isaiah 58 and other places, he says, well, there was a story that the ancient rabbis tell of a woman who was actually an enemy of the people, whose son was killed that viciously. And the rabbis and the teachers heard her sound. And even though she had been an enemy to the people, he said, we need to join alongside her in her grief and make the same sound, because that is the sound of humanity and broken humanity. And so the shofar sounds on that day is supposed to be like a woman who's crying out because her children and her people are being killed unnecessarily, are being killed by the forces of politics and greed. And so at this moment, you're right, our grieving must produce a sound. That sound of protest, that sound of love, that sound of truth, and that sound must call us to action, because the shofar is never sounded without people responding to the sound and acting justly and acting accordingly. So I want you to keep sounding out. I want you to keep the tears and pain. We're going to keep doing it in the campaign. We're going to keep fighting. and it means a lot. Thank you for coming on. National media is on today. I'm sure they heard your voice. And next week, we're talking about deepening this and even challenging other senators who need to stand up like Susan Collins and others and say no to this gross overreach. And then additionally, we're going to keep saying, vote a just stimulus plan. That's what you ought to be doing in the face of nearly 200,000 people dead and dying, and all of the people that are poor and hurting that were already poor and hurting before COVID. And this COVID just exacerbated it. So love you. Thank God for you. Thank you for coming on. And we're going to stand Kentucky strong. How about that? We're going to stand.
We are. And we're going to be like Jesus and stand up to empire.
That's right. Empire has to, for this little light of mine, we're going to let it shine. Let it shine.
Thank you so much, Bishop, and thank you to Reverend Liz. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
God bless.
Rob, where do we head now?
I wonder if we could take a moment to check in everywhere.
All right.
Is that right to get a flash of everybody? So if folks could come off mute wherever you are, we're going to have a little holy chaos. And then we'll go to
holy coming out. I like that. A holy coming out. So y'all come on out now. Come on out. Right?
We're going to go to gallery mode and just come on off mute and honk those horns wherever you are.
And
can you hear some DC? Do you hear them?
Wow, I hear DC.
I'm on mute.
Where are they at in DC?
They're outside his home on Capitol Hill.
Oh my. Oh,
in London, Kentucky, I think they have a guitar and some people gathering around.
Liz, you got something started, Liz.
Look at this, all these people.
All right, and Tana, you can come off.
Holy disruption.
Tana, did they arrest you yet, Tana?
Tana, you're on mute.
I can't see. I messed my screen up. I don't know what I did, but I'll get it right after a while.
All right.
Can you?
So Rob, let me ask you a question. The folk, are they speaking out? Are they speaking out in DC?
Yeah. Do you want to go there? And then
I wanted somebody to go over by whoever's on the org horn and whatever kind of horn it is, and I want to say something to them and let them repeat it.
All right, so we're going to, DC, if you heard that, if you could work that out, if you could manage to get the phone close.
He lost me, so he's going to DC.
And then can we go to London first while they get that set up, Reverend Barber?
Yeah, London. Let's go to London, Kentucky.
Appalachia. I see Nina, who you know,
yes.
Boys, is out marching. Hey, Nina.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So good to see you.
We got a lot of people looking at us. We want all our people with their mask on.
Okay. All right.
We don't want anybody to say we weren't doing social distancing. All right. I'm in a building. I'm not around anybody. That's why I don't have mine on. Nobody.
Okay.
All right.
All righty.
Talk to us.
Okay. Well, what I want to talk about today is an example of how Mitch McConnell affects Eastern Kentucky right here at home. Mitch McConnell's main goal is to stack the courts with what he calls conservative judges. And, what I don't like is that a lot of people call those Christian conservative judges. And that's a lie. And I just want to stand up for my Jesus and say that these are not Jesus judges. And we have a recent example. A lawyer named Mary Cromer wrote an article Sunday in the Lexington Herald about this situation. On September 10th and 11th of this year, a court held a Kentucky bankruptcy court held a hearing on whether Black Jewel Mining Company permits had to cover their environmental violations, of which they have many. And the Energy and Environment Cabinet asked the court to order that company to comply with the state's environmental laws. The court refused.
Wow.
Now, it found that Black Jewel would have to be ordered to...
Keep on. We can hear you.
It found that Black Jewel could be ordered to address environmental regulations if they posed an environmental immediate threat to health. Well, in the case of a landslide threatening a home in Bell County, the court did not find an immediate threat. The house is located just below a slide on a saturated hillside. And if and when that fails, the mountainside will slide into that house below. By that time, the company will be long gone, and these poor people will be without a home and possibly lose their lives because of this. Now, that is what is meant by a conservative court, but that is not a Jesus judge. Now, what Jesus told us very specifically about this case, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees and hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers.
That's right.
Therefore, you receive condemnation greater. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, and hypocrites. You travel land and sea to win one proselyte, and when he is won, you make him twice as much a son of hell as yourself.
Oh, you better preach, sister.
And this is what we are fighting against. We're fighting for the people who live in the valleys below, and the corporations need to be held accountable.
That's right.
And the people need to have justice.
That's right, my son. And we understand the connectedness between this judge appointment, because as we've been telling the media and others on, these appointments, like trying to fill Ruth Bader Ginsburg, if you go underneath who they've even suggested, I've seen this list of judges, check how they vote for corporations rather than the people. Check how they vote against voting rights. Liz read that powerful piece from Isaiah 3. That's what we have to help people understand. They want this to be only about women's rights, which we have to make it about that, because that is fundamental. But then we also have to expand it. It's not that they just don't want women to have the right to choose. They want corporations to have power over women. They want to undermine voting rights, which is going to hurt women. They want to cut health care, which is going to hurt women. If it hurts women, it hurts all of us. And so that's why it is so important that you all are doing what you're doing today and the days to come. And while we're raising this way through caravans, through call-ins, and everything that's doing. I see everybody there in London. Yeah. We need to go back to DC now. But sister, let me tell you something. Okay. Whenever COVID is over and you can get in a car and drive to North Carolina, I'm going to turn you into Pulpit, let you preach to folk all over the country. You got to preach. I don't even know if you have license, but you got to preach in that a day for Greenleaf Christian Church. All right?
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Matthew 23.
DC.
Everybody in London.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to DC. We're in Mitch McConnell's house in front of it.
Can somebody repeat this after me?
This is a message. I'm repeating it.
So I'm Reverend William Barber.
I'm Reverend William Barber.
Co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign.
Co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
With Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris.
I'm here with Reverend Dr. Liz Theo Harris, other co-chair of the Poor People's Campaign.
And we have people on from all over Kentucky.
And we have people on from all over Kentucky.
And we have people on from all over the nation.
And we have people on from all over the nation.
And we have one message.
And we have one message.
It is wrong.
It is wrong.
It is grotesquely wrong.
It is grotesquely wrong.
For Mitch McConnell.
For Mitch McConnell.
Trump and their enablers.
Trump and their enablers.
To refuse to vote for a just stimulus plan.
To refuse to vote for a just stimulus plan. Because what do we want?
To refuse to care for hundreds of thousands of people who have died.
Who refuse to care for hundreds of thousands of people who are dying.
And millions that need health care and living wages.
And millions that need health care and living wages.
And water protections and mortgage protections.
Water protections, mortgage protections.
And rent protections.
And rent protections.
And protection equipment.
And protection equipment, PPEs, y'all.
And medicine and vaccines.
Medicine and vaccines.
And you will not vote for that.
We will not vote for that.
But then you want to vote to put a person in a seat.
You want to vote to put a person in a seat.
Of a woman who hasn't even yet been buried.
to a woman who has not yet been married.
You are so mean-spirited.
You are so mean-spirited.
And infected with a lust for power.
You are infected with a lust for power.
And a lust for and infected with racism and greed.
With racism and greed.
That you would rather vote.
Put it directly to the mic.
That you would rather vote. Did she go off?
She's rearranging.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, we thought we could just plug it in, but that technology is not there yet.
That you would rather vote.
That you would rather vote
to stop the stimulus.
To stop the stimulus.
And vote to stack the courts.
But you'll vote to stack the courts.
We will not stand for this.
We will not stand for this.
We will not be quiet for this.
We will not be quiet for this.
Voting is power unleashed.
Voting is power unleashed.
We will mobilize in the streets and in the ballot box.
We will mobilize in the streets and in the ballot box.
Yes.
Understand.
Understand.
That everything you are doing.
Everything you are doing.
Is not going to send us home.
It's not going to send us home.
Or make us go in a corner and cry.
Or make us go in a corner and cry.
Instead, it will only embolden.
It will embolden.
And intensify our agitation.
Our agitation.
We are fighting now.
We are fighting now.
And forever.
And forever.
For the soul of this democracy.
For the soul of this democracy.
And the lives of poor people.
And the lives of poor people everywhere.
Everywhere. You got it, sister. You got it. Now you can run with it. That's called, you just care. Go ahead.
And just statehood also for DC, because Mitch McConnell can help us with that.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
That's right.
But as we say, we want the statehood for DC, but the state of the hood right now is that he's trying to force somebody on the courts, and he's trying to do it in a way to put people there that will have the courts stacked against us. And they're already trying to stop the election from being free and fair. And literally, they're using policy in a way that's killing people. And you can tell the folk I said that. They're using policy in a way that's killing people. But what we must make sure is that Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death, Breonna Taylor's death, George Floyd's death, all the unnamed people's death, all the folk that have died unnecessarily for COVID, their deaths must bring us to life.
So as we see in DC.
Right. Thank you, DC.
Thank you, DC. And we're gonna, as folks, we need you to call, go to the link that's on the screen right now. We'll see a call to action. We need you to call and keep calling. We've shut down most of his offices. We're up and all the way to Fort Wright. We're going all the way from, we were in London, which is East Kentucky. Now we're going to Paducah. So I'm gonna ask Amanda to come off mute and Bruce to come off mute. I see that we're still out there driving, doing the caravan.
And Rob, can you have Reverend Liz and you all take it from here? I've got to do a piece on the war economy and connect this stuff in about 3 minutes. I need to stretch these old bones and get ready to do that. But Kentucky is all about, as they say in the street, Kentucky is about it. I'm telling you right now, Kentucky got the whole world shook up, the whole nation shook up, and it's only going to continue. Keep your focus. We're thinking about doing something even broader next Monday. We're seeding the idea, but give us a moment to think. Kentucky, you have started something that's spreading like righteous fire all across the nation, and it must, and we will not be silent anymore, and we're going to fight. Voting is power unleashed, and we are standing now, not just for us, but for our children's children and all those that have been hurt too often and too much in this nation. Reverend Rob, thank you so much. Reverend Liz, you got it, co-chair. I'm turning it over to you. Back in the radio days, we would say, I'm kicking it over to you.
Kicking it over.
Great. Reverend Liz, you want to take us to Paducah? We got Amanda on the phone.
Indeed. Welcome, Paducah. Let's hear how Western Kentucky is organizing and mobilizing. So it's a little bit hard to hear you, Amanda, but we hear that there's 35 folks in the caravan and somebody's been hurting our people. And that is powerful, powerful. Hoping we might be able to connect back with you and be able to hear a little bit better. But Western Kentucky is out there and organizing. You want to try one more time, Amanda? See if we can. All right, it's not working, but
I don't know, Bruce, if you can come on real quick. Amanda, we heard a few of what you said, but Bruce, are you available just to say what's happening in Paducah? And Amanda, if you want to just call back in to reconnect. And if not, we'll get ready to go to Louisville.
We're able to see from Bruce's. Nope.
Okay, Bruce, can you turn it around and talk?
Oh no, we can hear you through Bruce.
Okay, you can hear me through Bruce.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thank you, everybody.
This is perfect. All right.
Hey, Reverend Barber. So,
go for it, Amanda.
Go for it, Amanda. Go for it.
Hold on, Amanda. All right. So here we go. This is Paducah. I know you think about Eastern Kentucky, Appalachia being the hard hit, but this is McCracken County where we have 17% poverty. We have 16,000 people in McCracken County that are food insecure, and that includes 2,300 children. And that is here in Paducah where his office is located. And so he is hurting his people. He is hurting his Commonwealth. And so I encourage everybody to call McConnell and to let him know that he has been there far too long, and we will not be silent anymore.
Amanda, thank you so much. Will you say those numbers one more time of the folks that are hurting under McConnell's watch there in Paducah?
Yes. In McCracken County, here where Paducah is the county seat, 16,300 people are food insecure, and that includes 2,300 children. And just down the road from us in Fulton County, which is the furthest you can go in Kentucky without falling into the river, the poverty rate is 26%. That is his state.
Yeah, and that's just the official poverty rate.
And he has not done it.
That's right. That's right. And that's a official poverty rate. If we use a supplemental poverty measure, if we talk about those that are making less than a living wage, you have upwards of twice that number. And again, this is in McConnell's state under his watch. People are being hurt. People are dying. People are going without food. And yet this nation, under the leadership of Mitch McConnell, throws out more food than it takes to feed everybody. And so it is powerful to have folks in a caravan out in Paducah, in McCracken County, and all over. Rob, where are we going to next?
Well, I think Tana was trying to come in real quick. We thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Bruce and Paducah. Great job. Tana, are you still there? Are you trying to give us an update from Lexington? If not, then is Louisville ready? I see Elijah from Louisville, and I think I also saw Shelton.
And it looks like if Fort Wright is trying to jump in.
Okay, well let's.
All right, Fort Wright, you're live. It sounds like you took it.
Here we are. A national call for more revival.
Hey, Reverend Barber.
Excellent.
Tana, 1 minute. This is Reverend Liz. I'm about to toss it over to you. Reverend Barber's had to log off.
Hi, Reverend Liz. Let me know. Just point to me.
Okay.
You're on, Tana.
It's all you now.
Lexington, we will persist forward together, not one step back. Here we are. We have been making some noise.
Powerful protest. So tell us what's going on. Tell us how Lexington is. And
Hey, Liz, right here in Lexington, we have a really good media coverage. I'm just going to shout them out. I'm going to shout them out because they've been here for the whole thing. We got channel 18, WLEX. We are over here with channel 36. We are over here, 27. Herald Leaders here. We got channel 27. We got 30 years. Got channel 27. We were covered with media. They took footage of our First Amendment rights being trampled on, the right to assemble. But we're still here. These are the faithful ones. We had about 100 cars. Most of the folks had to go back to work. We have practiced social distancing with the mask. I am so proud of our media. I want the nation to know that we probably got the best media across the nation. Here's Darnell with Channel 27. He's finishing up. Reverend Liz, this is Reverend Liz Theo Harris. This is the other strong point with Reverend Barber.
So Tana, say a little bit about
has Reverend Barber signed off? If he signed off, you can get one with Reverend Liz. All right, are you ready? Reverend Liz, Channel 27.
Well, the Poor People's Campaign, a national call for moral revival, stands in Kentucky for this Moral Monday against McConnell, for the mayhem and misery he's causing, both as he threatens to, use his authority to bring unjust judges into power, and at the same time, as he overreaches, he threatens to not pass a just stimulus, right? And so it's powerful to have folks across Kentucky, Bowling Green, London, Fort Wright, Louisville, Lexington, and also folk in Washington, D.C., all a part of this Moral Monday, and signing in and raising our voices and making sure that we can't be silent anymore, and that we're going to keep on putting pressure on McConnell and putting pressure on all of those in power who use their power to pass unjust laws and to crush the face of the poor. And so, Tana, I want to hear a little bit more about no. All right, Rob.
Thank you. We got to get to the
yes.
places. Tana, you're
all right.
Out. But we need to get to Louisville and to Bowling Green.
Okay, wave everybody and make some noise.
All right.
Great. So Elijah, and I think we may have lost Shelton, so we'll check in.
Okay, but do we have Elijah?
Yep. Yeah, hello.
Elijah in Louisville.
Hey, you all. We're here from Louisville, Kentucky. You just barely missed the Caravan, but I just got word that we had about 50 cars here in Louisville, Kentucky, and we had all the major news stations out. You can see some of us are still here by the side of the road, back in the side full of just stimulus now. I'm here with my friend Pam McMichael, who's helped with the Poor People's Campaign in Kentucky. And yeah, we're in Louisville, where there's been over 100 days of continuous protest after the murder of Breonna Taylor. And we're still waiting for any justice to come down. And there has been no justice here in Louisville, Kentucky. So over 100 days of continuous protests, and we're still out here.
Well, we appreciate the protest. We surely in these times need to stand up and be heard. And we know that protest works, right? When we make the connections between racism and poverty, ecological devastation, militarism, and this moral narrative that blames and pits each other against each other, we're able to organize and mobilize. So, Elijah, it's powerful to see what's going on in Louisville and to hear about the Caravan. We appreciate the work that you all are doing. Continue to organize in Louisville and across Kentucky.
Thank you. We appreciate you too.
Is Shelton there or no?
He's not with me, but he might be on the call.
Okay.
Shelton, is that you there? Or is that Vernon?
I can't tell.
Yeah, it's not telling me.
All right.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, so tell us what's going on in Bowling Green.
Well, everybody's looking at it. We've got a small crowd, but a strong crowd. We're here. Yeah, we've made a few rounds. Got a few people standing. I don't know if you can see what's behind me.
Now we can. And what are you all calling for in Bowling Green? Are you calling on McConnell
Well,
to act?
we want McConnell to go. He needs to leave. He's been there too long. He don't stand for none of the policies that basically the people of the United States stand for or asking for. None of the laws, none of the bills that have been brought to the floor has he brought to the floor, that unless it done him some type of good, or does the presidency some type of good. So it's time for him to go. He's been there too long. He serves no purpose other than to serve himself and the presidency. And we know what the presidency is about.
In the Poor People's Campaign, we don't endorse or try to get candidates out, but we're about policies. And so we all have our personal opinions on issues in there, but we know that we are policies need to him or anybody else. We want those policies.
The policies that he seems to stand for.
Right.
They're just the things that he said that he was going to do. He hasn't done. The things that he's doing are harmful.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. And do you have a message for McConnell around the stimulus and around these judges? Are you there in Bowling Green asking McConnell to pass the just stimulus?
It's time for him to pass it. I'm one that is in need. Disabled. There's a lot of people out here that are hurting right now that are in need, and he's held that up, and it makes no sense. You got people that are going out on the streets that had jobs. Some people that are out on the streets, that have jobs are still out. So it's time that he bring change. That there be change. His policies they're not conducive to making our living, our quality of life as far as that's concerned.
Thank you so much, Vernon. And
you hear
thank
that in the background.
RPG. We can see folks honoring Ruth Bader Ginsburg by standing for justice today, and committing ourselves to stand for justice until everyone is served. I want to remind folks, thank you to Vernon, thank you to Bowling Green. I want to remind folks that there's still time to call the offices across Kentucky. You can follow the link that's up on the screen right now. Make sure you get your voice heard. And if you get through, you tell them about, we need a just stimulus package. You tell them about, we don't want a confirmation of judges before even Ruth Bader Ginsburg's family is able to mourn. You tell them that we need to stop suppressing the vote, and we need to protect healthcare, and that we need to come together and organize. And if you don't get through to someone, you can leave a message. It's the same message. We need a just stimulus package. We need to not overreach and try to put judges in, judges that what we know from history, stand against voting rights, stand against healthcare, stand against living wages, stand against the people, and instead prop up corporations. And so really asking people, if you can't join the caravans that are happening all across Kentucky or in Washington, D.C. at McConnell's D.C. house, to make sure that you join the numbers and make those calls. So Rob, wondering if there's other folks we should be reporting in on.
Yeah, so I want to ask folks to, I don't know if Pam and Tana, I just want to give you a heads up if you're able to come back on as we start to close out here. If for a moment, if we could go to our gallery screen so we can see all the places that are still up. At Fort Wright, if you could come back on screen, just so we can see all the places here at the end that are still on. I see Pam is still driving around. Pam, how did it go so far in Louisville?
Oh, it's been wonderful. We had a very active crew. We were led by several people on bicycles, those flags waving. You'll be getting some great photos. And, connecting to what happened to Breonna Taylor here. And I'm going to pull off. But it was just remarkable to be part of this 7-city and online Moral Monday March on McConnell, and a lot of spirit. a lot of dedication, and just thankful to be part of this, connected to Kentuckians and people all across the country.
Awesome, Pam. Thank you. Thank you for taking on Louisville and all across Kentucky in 6 places. Serena and Fort Wright, how did it end up there?
Hey family, everything went great. We had tons of folks show up for Kentucky. We circled his home, like he said, his office. Many times. We did get their attention. They were actually taking pictures of us. We had law enforcement showed up. They didn't make us stop. The Caravan was great. But everything worked out well. We had folks who are really, showing up for Kentucky. And we appreciate you. And we are demanding that our Senator Mitch McConnell also shows up for Kentucky and for Kentuckians and keep us safe. We all have the right to live. And we ask him to pass legislations and laws in love, and not mayhem, misery, and meanness, but in love.
Great. Thank you, Serena. And let's go see. I think they might have something for us in London. If you want to unmute in London, Lisa. I don't know if you got Randy there. Lisa in London and Randy, if y'all want to unmute. Oh, there you go. I think you got it.
Okay. Can you hear me there? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
You can hear me?
Yep, you sound good.
All right. We had a lot of people here in London. McConnell has office here. And we had some speeches and singing. And a good group. They're coming back in from the route here. So it was good. I wonder if I could say a few words here. They asked me to make a few comments. Is that okay, or is that what do you need there?
That's right. Please.
What? Hello?
Yes, let's hear it.
Okay. I just wanted to quote McConnell, March 16th, 2016. He says, "It is important for the Senate to give the people a voice in the filling of this vacancy. By waiting until the next president takes office, the American people may elect a president who decides to nominate Mr. Gardner, or a Senate consideration. The next president may also nominate someone very different. Either way, our view is this: give the people a voice." That was McConnell in 2016. He's not a man of his word. He trashed his own word there. March 16th, 2016. Give the people a voice in filling this vacancy. No, he wasn't a man of word. He don't care. He doesn't care for people. We think it's important, the principle in the middle of a presidential year, that the American people need to weigh in. That's McConnell. That's what he says. He just says anything at an opportune moment. That's the kind of man we got in office here.
That's right.
The Senate will appropriately revisit the matter after the American people finish speaking in November. The decision that they're stated in the meeting today. That's McConnell in 2016. Just tear it up. He doesn't mean what he says. He's an opportunist, just like the president is. It's called Machiavelli. I looked it up since college 50 years ago. What does Machiavelli mean? Cunning, scheming, unscrupulous, especially in politics. McConnell, Machiavelli McConnell, the Grim Reaper. He doesn't care about people. He doesn't care what he says. He will do what it is to take power. That's his thing. We have another one at the president. He is an egomaniac, bumbling idiot. He cares about his ego. That's all he cares. He doesn't care for you. He cares about himself. But McConnell is different. He's cool. calculating, cunning, scheming, unscrupulous. That's how he's kept power. We need to think about that when it comes about the election time. I'd like to also say if the people of Eastern Kentucky had a big flood, their houses were threatened or flooded, can you imagine a leader coming and throwing paper towels at them and saying you're a burden to our economy?
Yeah.
That's what he did in Puerto Rico, and now they're going to throw money at him. They don't care. They don't care for people. They care for power.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Look
you so
at
much.
that closely. Eastern Kentuckians who vote. Look at it closely. Do they really care for people? It doesn't make you. They call people a socialist. They may call people liberal. There's the boogeyman. That's all they're making up, these boogeyman things.
All right.
I wouldn't be afraid of people who are socialist or liberal. I'd be afraid of somebody who didn't care about me.
Yeah.
And they don't care about people. Now, we got somebody, a governor, who does care. He cares about the people getting aid they need. He cares about restoring health benefits for African Americans. But these guys that are in the power now, they don't care for you, Eastern Kentucky. They care about keeping power. That's as far as they go.
From McConnell.
So you think about that in the future, they don't care. We need people who really care, who show that they really care for us.
That's right.
That's all I got to say. Take it
Well,
back
we appreciate you being here with us. You appreciate everybody in London and Eastern Kentucky. And when we hear those words from 2016 about who the people make the voices of the people heard, well, that's what's happening across Kentucky today. That's what's been happening for years across Kentucky, and it's going to keep on happening. I know that there's powerful protests still happening in DC, still happening across Kentucky, but I want us to wrap up. Let folks be able to keep on protesting. I'm hoping we might be able to get one more group shot so that those that are still, you can see what's going on. And Reverend Barber was talking earlier in the broadcast when he was interacting with Ashley Judd about the sermon that Frederick Douglass gives after the Dred Scott decision. And I was thinking about that sermon and about how he says the ballot box is desecrated, God's law set at naught, armed legislators stalk the halls of Congress, freedom of speech is being beaten down by the Senate. But again, he reminds us that our agitation must be emboldened. And that is indeed what's happening across Kentucky, happening across the country today, with this Moral Monday, with the long protest movements for racial and economic justice that are happening all over. And the people of Kentucky are being heard. So I want to see if our sister Pam McMichael or Tana Fogel from Kentucky, one of the chairs of the Work in Kentucky Poor People's Campaign, want to close us out. As we know that we must go forward together and not one step back. Pam, I see you. Do you or Tana, you're ready. All right. Can't hear you, Tana. I can see you. I can see your lovely face, but I can't hear Tana. Wondering if we should just go to Pam and Pam will close us out, and everybody should tune in next week for the Moral Monday that we have planned. But Pam, will you send us on our way as we continue to decide to make calls to McConnell's offices? We've filled up a lot of mailboxes today, but we might have one more to fill up, and we need to keep on calling in case they open up those lines. So Pam, if you'd send us on our way.
Just mad love and gratitude. There's so much hope and coming together in action, and thankful to everybody who was part of this, honored to be part of it across the state and with folks in DC. People keep calling, keep putting the pressure on. It matters. we can build the kind of world and society we want to live in. We need each other to do it, and we can do it. So mad love and appreciation. Everybody take care of yourself and your communities and your families, and see you next Monday.
Well, we heard it from Pam. Thanks so much. Rob, you got any last instructions for all of us?
Yeah, we can. Everyone can come off their silent, so you can make some noise. Zilla and Amanda and Tana, if you can make some noise too. This has been an amazing day. What you see online has been just a snippet of, altogether probably over 1,000 people that have participated in these different locations doing these caravans. We thank you, Alexa. We get to see your face now. Thanks for driving us around Bowling Green and showing us the rallies there, and to Serena and Port Wright, covering the whole state. We thought we were going to have to take off next Monday, but now we realize that things are so urgent that we're going to be certainly honoring our Jewish brothers and sisters on that holiday, but also know that we need to raise the sound of the shofar and bring some justice. So be on the lookout for next week. If you're in a different state, you got inspired by what happened today, well, let us know if you want to do something similar, and we might try to figure something out. But yes, you can keep on calling. We know that those offices, especially that are in the Central Time Zone, will be open another hour, and you can call all week. Mm-hmm. Go to that link and sign up and use that link so we can keep in touch with you, and go to poorpeoplescampaign.org to stay in touch, and certainly share this video so people can watch it even after. And with that, we're going to close out. Reverend Liz, we good?
We're good. Forward together.
Not one step
together.
back. Not one step back.
Forward together.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Forward together.
Not one step back.
Woo!
All right.
All right.
Oh, no, I have one more thing. So, next week, we're going to be back in Kentucky because we're demanding that Senator McConnell come and both candidates. We've invited both candidates to come and speak to poor and low income issues in the Senate Town Hall. Next Tuesday, we're going to give Senator McConnell an opportunity, transparent. The questions are prearranged, so he has nothing to worry about. But so far, he's avoided us and avoided our invite that's gone to him multiple times. The other candidate has confirmed, but we still need Senator McConnell to respond and stop avoiding poor and low-income issues that are facing people in his state. And so we're out today also demanding that he comes back. And so folks in Kentucky, please, you can keep on asking him, follow up and ask him if he's going to come and speak next. It's going to be on the 29th, Tuesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 Central. Pam, did you want to say anything about that? That's good? All right.
We're good.
We're going to keep on pushing. All right, we're going to close out with a little music, and then we're going to have a little a flyer for next week's Senate Town Hall. Thank you, everybody. Go in peace.
Oh, somebody's hurting my brother.